There have been times when the Walt Disney Company has done dumb things, but today we're going to be talking about something that is a whole new level of dumb. Folks, we're here to tell you that the Walt Disney Company is investing massive amounts of money and making big-time announcements in a place that they probably should be avoiding. And not only that, we're going to show you why. Prepare to see behind the curtains of Disneyland in Hong Kong, where the new Frozen expansion is, where Bob Iger announced Frozen 4. And we're going to show you what lies just beyond the Disney park, a place that you don't want to go and nobody else does either. Today, we're going to explain the darkness that is there and why Disney should be very careful sending money into that place. Well, it turns out that Bob Iger has stopped by Hong Kong. He loves China. He goes there often, apparently. His yacht, I'm sure it's green and carbon neutral, delivering him yet again to the Hong Kong Bay to go make a big announcement as they are expanding and exploding the Hong Kong parks over there. Frozen 4 announced as Bob Iger attends Hong Kong Disneyland expansion grand opening. This by Amelia Iglesias over on thatparkplace.com. Frozen fans are having a day where they just can't let their joys go. But is Bob Iger going to the well a little too much in Arendelle? Here's the article. Bob Iger disclosed that the studio is currently developing a fourth installment of the Frozen series alongside the previously announced Frozen 3, which is yet to be released. During an appearance on Good Morning America, that's GMA for you out there, Disney CEO shared Frozen 3 is in progress and there might also be a Frozen 4 in the works. But I don't have much to say about those films right now. Jen Lee, who created the original Frozen and Frozen 2, is diligently working with her team at Disney Animation on not one, but actually two stories. Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, the songwriters for Frozen, are set to return to compose new music for the two upcoming films, as confirmed by Anderson Lopez on social media. She posted, "Well, I've been quiet here for a while, but yeah, this." The announcement was made by Iger at Disney's theme park in Hong Kong, where he is present for the opening ceremony of World of Frozen. That, of course, is this expansion that features all of Arendelle. Now, take a look at this, folks. You can see here the pictures from the Disney Parks blog, where they released a press release, and you can see what you've got here in Hong Kong, which, of course, has sweltering heat, and it's not the typical place you would expect to see something like Frozen, but here it is. The fascinating thing to me is that all of this hoopla, this is on par, I would say, with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, all of this hoopla, and there's, of course, Josh D'Amaro there with Bob Iger, both clearly working on their abs, clearly working on them. Don't forget your core. Got the drones over there. But what's amazing to me is that it's hard to mistake that this is on par with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It's on par with Pandora over in Animal Kingdom. And it seems to me that the money now is freely going from the income off of the domestic parks and going to the international parks and specifically into China. Now, why exactly is Bob Iger so intent, and Josh D'Amaro right along with him, to funnel the domestic money out of parks that are highly lucratively cash flow intensive and send those on a vacation where they shall not return out to China, where Disney at a moment's notice could lose control of those parks, where Disney does not generate significant revenue, and where Disney is not allowed to own even the majority of the park because it is not allowed in a country such as China for a foreign corporation to come in and own a majority of anything. The government of China owns the majority of everything. So why is Disney so focused on investing there? Well, folks, I can't exactly tell you. All I can tell you is that way back at the beginning of this channel, we did an expose. Very first day of this channel, if you can believe it, the very first day, we did an expose on Hong Kong Disneyland. And Vash Sky, who is now the co-anchor of That Park Place, the YouTube channel, he was on that video with us. You can go check it out. Back on January 1st of 2023. Still a little baby channel. We're less than a year old, still learning how to walk. But Vash Sky was with us. We did an expose on the fact that Hong Kong Disneyland is in such dire straits that the expansion pad that is supposed to be used for a second park, a second gate at the resort, was actually transformed due to the pandemic and, well, due to other things, turned into an involuntary area for people to go on medical leave. And I'm gonna phrase it that way so you all can figure out what I'm talking about. But people go there and they don't do it of their own free will, and whether they come out or not, who knows? But that is attached to the parking lot of Hong Kong Disneyland. You can go look at folks. Go look on Google Earth and find it. Go on Google Earth, and in that search bar, put in Hong Kong Disneyland, and then you're going to see that there's this magical place on the other side of the parking lot. Attached to it, the tram could drop you off there if you wanted to. And so just across from Main Street, just across from Arundel, you're going to find a lot of less magical experiences being had. That's where Bob Iger and his buddies want to go. That's where they want to take all the profits, all the money that's coming in from the Walt Disney World Resort, which has always been the glowing, the crown jewel in the crown itself. The big one, the big kahuna, Disney World. That's where they want to take the profits. They don't want to invest them into Disney World, of course. We've got years and years of lackluster investments coming for Disney World, and instead, we're getting announcements of Frozen 3 and 4. I also find it fascinating that when Bob Iger said that they were going to go back to that which works, I'm not sure many of us knew that this was going to become an assembly line situation, an assembly line of sequels. And so maybe we'll get Frozen 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who knows? Keep pushing them out the door, Bob. Let's get some planes. Planes 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Cars 12. Make those movies. Make the things that used to work, and pray that you've got somebody who can save the day, because you don't have John Lasseter. But maybe people remember what John Lasseter created, and they'll come back to watch the sequels that he had no hand in making. That's the story today. Space Dave, welcome to the panel, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Pro. How are you today?
Oh, I'm having a very happy day today. Space Dave, what are your thoughts on Bob Iger announcing not only this expansion, but also Frozen 4? It feels kind of like we're announcing Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, except we're into the we're already making the trilogy. Now we're getting a fourth one attached. Kind of an odd thing. What do you think about it?
For the parks, it's pretty obvious being in the financial world, I can only tell you this from experience, and being a Canadian, what Canadians found a lot of, let's just say, investments in that country you mentioned, China, would usually end up, and I'm not saying that's what's happening here, I'm just saying it seems to be an odd pattern, is that when investments were made in that country, because it's not regulated the same way we are, it usually was for money laundering. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that seems to be an odd pattern. And I'm not saying that's what Disney or Bob Iger is doing, but the mind does wonder why you would invest, as you're pointing out, into a country that is not pro-America or pro-North America. And as you said, could seize your assets at any moment without any, you have zero input into that. So it's a very odd thing to do, especially when your moneymaker is, as you brought up many, many times, in North America. So it is odd. As for, and I threw up in my mouth a little bit when you said Frozen 3 and 4. I take 2 points of that. Franchises and IPs are like money-making machines, right? So I understand from a perspective of, hey, we're doing this because, it's a popular franchise, probably one of their most popular franchises in the last 25 years, correct? So we're going to just milk that till the cow is dry. But I understand, because it is cheaper to create a sequel and keep a sequel going, keep that franchise going, than it is to relaunch an IP and hope it is successful, right? When you know it's successful, you kind of want to ride it as long as you can. When you aren't sure if it's going to be successful, then you're kind of banking a lot on that. And I from a perspective of the parks too, it's hard to have 100 IPs compared to 10 solid IPs, I would say. So there is advantages and disadvantages to that. The disadvantage is it gets old to us and it gets stale, but the advantage is, kids are kids, right? Next generation comes along and it's sort of all new to them. So, and there's nostalgia for it. So that's my thoughts on that. Probably a little out to the left field when it came to the China stuff, but I'm just...
No, I think you're to the right field field of China. Space Dave, here's something to ponder. Just thinking about this as you were talking. Moana is their most popular princess franchise they have. They're not making more Moanas other than a live action remake. Now, they're going to Frozen, and they're doing four of these. Well, two more, but that'll be four. Um, there's been a big push for, I believe it's Elsa, for Elsa to be an LGBTQIA plus plus plus, for her to be an icon in that area. I kind of wonder, Disney has said they're going to quiet the noise, but everything they've done so far has pointed otherwise. We broke the story this morning about the connections now between this new um, Act Value investment firm that's coming in to battle back the Trian partners and Nelson Peltz. We've got a lot more on that we can't talk about yet, lest we burn sources. So just know we've got a lot more. But it doesn't seem to me that they're quieting the noise. It seems to me that they just say that, but then they push farther and farther into the political arena. I wonder if going into Frozen 4 is to have this be a situation where they can make Elsa be a lesbian icon, and then also I find it just bizarre that that the strain that might put on the franchise if it happens, to be that she is that, and China, of course, now has an expansion there. China not very open to that, but I don't know. Maybe that is the thing that will keep it from going in that direction. What do you think?
Well, it's most likely. I mean, have they not shown their intentions? I mean, to back up a bit, thinking about the number two of what's that one about emotions, the girl that they were talking about making a. It's been so long since they said. Sorry, I apologize. I can't remember the name of the movie that's going to come out. I think next year, with the emotions, and they change the emotions, and they're saying she's.
Oh, you're talking about Inside Out too.
Inside Out. Thank you. Correct. So the rumors we're hearing about that would just coalesce with what you're saying, and I think they've been hinting that. I've been hearing that for a couple of years about, Elsa being the lesbian. So there's no evidence of that in the two movies, but hey, an agenda is an agenda at the end of the day. So I think they're really pushing that agenda. And as I've said before, I think when it's an agenda, money doesn't matter, right? They're always going to push that whether they lose money or not, which is why I keep saying, and I think I've been on the show a few times, where I don't understand their end game, because financially, none of this makes sense. You're just going to, as you've said, and many of your compatriots have said, you're just dividing half the country, and perhaps more than half the country at this point. You're catering to a minority, and you're shoving it down everybody's throats, and you're not being very subtle about it. So, and you're going to anger people. And I think that's a representation of the movies for the last 2 years, how they bombed. People don't care anymore. They're just, I've had enough. Everything's got a hidden agenda or a message. Plus they're terrible stories, right? On top of that. So, I mean, I don't understand again what the end game here is, other than you're pushing an agenda and hoping it will work out in the end. And I totally agree. Like what you guys released today, I see the 4D chess going on here with Iger, and you got to admit he's pretty smart, right, about what he's done here, putting the Pepsi guy in the CFO position, and now I heard this last night actually before you guys released it today about the other group coming in to China. And subtly, I think they're going to do exactly what you think, is to challenge Peltz. So at the end of the day, Peltz has now got an even higher wall and a higher hurdle to get past. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it. The only way is if they do a proxy vote and the average person votes against Iger, right, and gets Peltz in there. That's the only way they're going to do this. Otherwise, I think the cards are highly stacked against these guys, highly stacked against them. I don't think they're going to do it actually personally, but miracle might happen.
Well, what I would say about the video that came out this morning is there's something that we said in that video, and the intrepid viewers of this channel, the members out there watching right now, they are so in touch and so connected that they undoubtedly caught on to what this is. But when we took the time to talk about Bob Iger living in the same subdivision / neighborhood / gated community as someone who runs a particular investment group, being a little coy here, folks. But when we took the time and we spent maybe a minute talking about that, we did that for a reason. So stay tuned on that. That's all I can say, is stay tuned on that one. And when news breaks in a particular direction, we'll remind you that we said that, and then we'll remind you of this live stream, and we'll say, now does it add up, guys? Now does it add up? So hang tight. We'll get there. But I do want to go, Space Dave. I want to show everybody what we're talking about when we are discussing Hong Kong Disneyland and what's going on with that park we told you about. So let's just turn this where everybody can see what it is, okay? So if you're coming into Hong Kong Disneyland, all right, let's drive. Everybody want to drive together? Here we go. We're going down the road. Toot, 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 toot. And oh, look, beautiful Inspiration Lake, artificial waterfall. I love artificial waterfalls. See the lake, everybody? So beautiful. We keep driving. Oh, the arboretum? I'm sorry, that's not English. Surely not. Inspiration Lake Pavilion. We got a nice roundabout. You come down. Everything's so joyful and magical. You got another roundabout. And then if you take the left, okay, now if you go straight, you're going to go down all the resorts and hotels, okay? But if you take a left, you're going to go to the Disneyland Hong Kong parking lot. All right, so here's the parking lot. See all that? See all that? That's parking lots. And then you go in here, and you've got the park promenade. Oh, isn't it so beautiful? And you go through the park promenade, and here's Main Street, USA, going right down the middle. And you get to the castle, and oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And there's Hyperspace Mountain. It's not just Space Mountain. Gosh darn it, it's Hyperspace Mountain. If you'd like to know where this Arendelle area went, well, it went back here. Now, where was the second park supposed to be? Well, let's go back. Park Promenade, okay, beautiful, lovely. Okay, let's go back. Originally, at the end of the parking lot was supposed to be another park. And so that would have been park number 2. Look, you know what? Isn't this so interesting? Look how tall these trees are. It's almost as if they want to keep something private over here for some reason. Look at all the privacy. Look at these trees. They're just blocking something. I don't know what it could be. Space Dave, at the end of the parking lot now, instead of a second park for an expansion, well, what is this? Folks, this is RRT1, Government Office. And what is RRT1, Government Office? Well, these buildings are not a place you want to be. Let's leave it there.
Very familiar historically, if you know what I'm hinting at. Go
they
about
do
60 years back, and
it's just across the tree line. I mean,
yeah.
Listen, Space Dave, when you're on the park promenade going into Hong Kong Disneyland, this is where Bob Iger's so happy to be. Oh, I've just got to announce Frozen 4. I'm so happy. This is where Josh tomorrow. These people don't care about values. They don't care about virtue whatsoever, because across the tree line from where they are is this, and it's not a place anybody wants to go. So that's Bob Iger. That's Josh D'Amaro. That's how they run their corporation. And yeah, not quite the lovely magical place that you thought, eh?
But it's as you said. I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't have the same moral center or values that especially Walt Disney had. And I think that's where a lot of people such as yourself and myself and people that are very dedicated to the vision of Disney, which is, I think, very American. I'm not American, but I still have some of those core values in me. And, these are contradictory values. And I think you've said before that this particular park as well is not very populated, correct? It's not attended very well.
No, none of the Chinese parks really are. You got to be a certain type of person to get to go to them, if you get my drift. Everything's, in China, you don't get to go where you want to go. You don't get to drive where you want to drive. That doesn't exist. There's an interesting story. I was talking to somebody who worked over in the China parks, and also I talked to another person who worked on the Universal Studios park on its construction in China. And one of the funny things that they've said is, they had to get used to this idea that they'd have a different driver on some days, and they would say, why is the driver different? And that person would say, oh, well, they're not allowed to drive on this day and this day and this day, but I am. And that it all comes down to control, right? They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to drive on particular days, and you certainly can't drive just wherever you want. So,
and just to step in there, and anyone that's watched some documentaries, they're not actually allowed to own vehicles, all of them either. You have to kind of go through the lottery, I believe, or some sort of special thing to even own a vehicle in China and in most of the major cities.
But I want to do the juxtaposition here, Space Dave. So everybody sees this picture and it's so happy. This on thatparkplace.com again, folks. It's so happy. so joyful. All of these cast members, all of these people, so smiley. Bob Iger there, of course, and all the Disney bigwigs. And just across the tree line is a very unfun place. And for whatever reason, our corporations, and specifically Disney in this topic, they want to play very friendly with a place that does things that historically we have always condemned. This is how history repeats itself, is when we continue to play with groups that do the things that we once abhorred. So I wish this was not the case, but it is.
This is Wilton the Troll reporting for That's Park Place, and I'm surrounded by loving and adoring people who are peacefully trying to make sure that poor kids aren't cold in the winter. And just behind me, you can see a totally natural bonfire for baking cookies or making marshmallows.
Yeah, so, Wilson, we really appreciate the effort and stuff, but we're looking for real and, accurate news reporting on that Park Place.
So not like most news outlets, huh?
No.